The ACT College Readiness Assessment is a standardized test for high school achievement and college admissions in the United States produced by ACT, Inc. It was first administered in November 1959 by Everett Franklin Lindquist as a competitor to the College Board's Scholastic Aptitude test, now the SAT. The ACT originally consisted of 4 tests: English, Mathematics, Social Studies, and Natural Sciences. In 1989, the Social Studies test was changed into a reading section and the Natural Sciences test was renamed the Science Reasoning test, with more emphasis on problem-solving skills. In February 2005, an optional writing test was added to the ACT, mirroring changes to the SAT that took place later in March of the same year. In the spring of 2015, the ACT will start to be offered as a computer-based test that will incorporate some optional constructed response questions. The test content, composite score, and multiple-choice format will not be affected by these changes. The test will continue to be offered in the paper format for schools that are not ready to transition to computer testing. The ACT has seen a gradual increase in the number of test takers since its inception, and in 2011 the ACT surpassed the SAT for the first time in total test takers that year. 1,666,017 students took the ACT and 1,664,479 students took the SAT. All 4-year colleges and universities in the U.S. accept the ACT, but different institutions place different emphases on standardized tests such as the ACT, compared to other factors of evaluation such as class rank, GPA, and extracurricular activities. The main 4 tests are scored individually on a scale of 1 to 36, and a composite score is provided, which is the whole number average of the 4 scores. Note that a composite score of 32.5 rounds up to a 33. Function. ACT, Inc. says that the ACT assessment measures high school students' general educational development and their capability to complete college-level work, with the multiple-choice tests covering 4 skill areas: English, Mathematics, Reading, and Science. The optional writing test measures skill in planning and writing a short essay. Specifically, ACT states that its scores provide an indicator of college readiness, and that scores in each of the subtests correspond to skills in entry-level college courses in English, algebra, social science, humanities, and biology. According to a research study conducted by ACT, Inc. in 2003, a relationship was found between a student's ACT composite score and the possibility of him or her earning a college degree. To develop the test, ACT incorporates the objectives for instruction for middle and high schools throughout the United States, reviews approved textbooks for subjects taught in grades 7 to 12, and surveys educators on which knowledge skills are relevant to success in post-secondary education. ACT publishes a technical manual that summarizes studies conducted of its validity in predicting freshman GPA, equating different high school GPAs, and measuring educational achievement. Colleges use the ACT and the SAT because there are substantial differences in funding, curricular grading, and difficulty among U.S. secondary schools due to American federalism, local control, and the prevalence of private, distance, homeschooled students, and a lack of a rigorous college entrance examination system like those used in some other countries. ACT/SAT scores are used to supplement the secondary school record and help admission officers put local data, such as coursework, grades, and class rank, in a national perspective. The majority of colleges do not indicate a preference from the SAT or ACT exams and accept both being treated equally by most admissions officers. According to Uni in the USA, colleges that also require students to take the SAT subject tests do so regardless of whether the candidate took the SAT or ACT. However, some colleges accept the ACT in place of the SAT subject tests and some accept the optional ACT writing section in place of a SAT subject test. Most colleges use ACT scores as only one factor in their admission process. A sampling of ACT admissions scores shows that the 75th percentile composite score was 24.1 at public four-year institutions and 25.3 at private four-year institutions. It is recommended that students check with the prospective institutions directly to understand ACT admissions requirements. In addition, some states have used the ACT to assess the performance of schools and require all high school students to take the ACT, regardless of whether they are college-bound. Colorado and Illinois have incorporated the ACT as part of the mandatory testing program since 2001. Michigan has required the ACT since 2007. Kentucky and Tennessee require all high school juniors to take the ACT, and Wyoming requires all high school juniors to take either the ACT or the ACT work keys. While the exact manner in which ACT scores will help to determine admission of a student at American institutions of higher learning is generally a matter decided by the individual institution, some foreign countries have made ACT scores a legal criterion in deciding whether holders of American high school diplomas will be admitted at the public universities. The ACT is more widely used in the Midwestern, Rocky Mountain, and Southern United States, whereas the SAT is more popular on the East and West coasts. Recently, however, the ACT is being used more on the East Coast. Use of the ACT by colleges has risen as a result of various criticisms of the effectiveness and fairness of the SAT format. The required portion of the ACT is divided into 4 multiple-choice subject tests: English, mathematics, reading, and science reasoning. Subject test scores range from 1 to 36. All scores are integers. The English, mathematics, and reading tests also have sub-scores ranging from 1 to 18. The composite score is the average of all 4 tests. In addition, students taking the optional writing test receive a writing score ranging from 1 to 36. The writing score does not affect the composite score. The ACT has eliminated the combined English writing score and has added 2 new combined scores. The error will be an average of the English, reading, and writing scores. The STEM will be an average of the math and science scores. All of the changes that have been listed for the writing score and the new ELA and STEM scores are effective starting on the September 2015 test. On the ACT, each question correctly answered is worth 1 raw point. There is no penalty for marking incorrect answers on the multiple-choice part of the test. Therefore, a student can answer all questions without suffering a decrease in the score for questions they answer incorrectly. This is parallel to several APT tests eliminating the penalties for incorrect answers. To improve the result, students can retake the test. 55% of students who retake the ACT improve the scores, 22% score the same, and 23% see the scores decrease. English. The first section is the 45-minute English test covering usage, mechanics, and rhetorical skills. The 75-question test consists of 5 passages with various sections underlined on one side of the page and options to correct the underline portions on the other side of the page. More specifically, questions focus on usage and mechanics, issues such as commas, apostrophes, modifiers, colons, and fragments and run-ons, as well as on rhetorical skills, style, strategy, transitions, and organization. Mathematics. The second section is the 60-minute, 60-question mathematics test with 14 covering pre-algebra, 10 elementary algebra, 9 intermediate algebra, 14 plane geometry, 9 coordinate geometry, and 4 elementary trigonometry questions. Calculators are permitted in this section only. The calculator requirements are stricter than the SATs in that computer algebra systems are not allowed. However, the ACT permits calculators with paper tapes that make noise, or that have power cords with certain modifications, which the SAT does not allow. Standard graphing calculators, such as the T83 and T84 family, are allowed. Also, this is the only section that has 5 instead of 4 answer choices. Reading. A reading section consists of 4 10-question passages from the realm of prose fiction, social science, humanities, and natural science. The student gets 35 minutes to take this test. Science reasoning. The science reasoning test is a 35-minute, 40-question test. There are 7 passages, each followed by 5 to 7 questions. The passages have 3 different formats: data representation, research summary, and conflicting viewpoints. While the format used to be very predictable when the number of passages was reduced from 7 to 6, more variability in the number of each passage type started to appear. But so far, there is still always only one conflicting viewpoints passage. These changes are very recent, and so the only reference to them so far is in the recently released practice test on the ACT website. Writing. The optional writing section, which is always administered at the end of the test, is 40 minutes long. Essays must be in response to a given prompt. The prompts are about broad social issues, and students must analyze 3 different perspectives given, and show how their opinion relates to these perspectives. The essay does not affect the composite score or the English section score. It is only given as a separate writing score and is included in the LS score. No particular essay structure is required. 2 trained readers assign each essay subscores between 1 and 6 in 4 different categories: ideas and analysis, development and support, organization, language use and conventions. Scores of 0 are reserved for essays that are blank, off-topic, non-English, not written with a no. 2 pencil, or considered illegible after several attempts at reading. The subscores from the 2 different readers are summed to produce final domain scores from 2 to 12 in each of the 4 categories. If the 2 readers' subscores differ by more than 1 point, then a senior third reader makes the final decision on the score. The 4 domain scores are combined through process that has not been described to create a writing section score between 1 and 36. Note that the domain scores are not added to create the writing section score. Although the writing section is optional, many colleges do require an essay score and will factor it into the admissions decision. Averages for the original standardization groups. The mean composite score on the ACT was 18, and the standard deviation 6. These statistics vary from year to year for current populations of ACT takers. The chart below summarizes each section and the average test score based on graduating high school seniors in 2014. Highest score. The table below summarizes how many students achieved a composite score of 36 on the ACT between the years of 1997 and 2014. College admissions. The ACT Assessment Student Report is at ACT.org. Provides the typical ACT composite averages for college and universities' admission policies. They caution that, because admission policies vary across colleges, the score ranges should be considered rough guidelines. Following is a list of the average composite scores that typically are accepted at colleges or universities. Highly selective scores 27 to 30, selective scores 25 to 27, traditional scores 22 to 24, liberal scores 18 to 21, open scores 17 to 20. Test availability. The ACT is offered 4 to 6 times a year, depending on the state. In the United States, in September, October, December, February, April, and June, and is always on a Saturday except for those with credible religious obligations. The test can also be taken in other countries. However, availability is much less than in the United States. The ACT is designed, administered, and scored in such a way that there is no advantage to testing on one particular date or another. Candidates may choose either the ACT assessment or the ACT assessment plus writing. Students with verifiable disabilities, including physical and learning disabilities, are eligible to take the test with accommodations. The standard time increase for students requiring additional time due to disabilities is 50%. Originally, the score sheet was labeled that additional time was granted due to a learning disability. However, this was dropped because it was deemed illegal under the Americans with Disabilities Act and could be seen as an unfair mark of disability. Scores are sent to the student, his or her high school, and up to 4 colleges. Test section durations. Time is a major factor to consider in testing. The ACT is generally regarded as being composed of somewhat easier questions, but the time allotted to complete each section increases the overall difficulty. The ACT allots 45 minutes for a 75-question English section, 60 minutes for a 60-question mathematics section, 35 minutes for a 40-question reading section, 35 minutes for a 40-question science section. Comparatively, the SAT is structured such that the test taker is allowed at least 1 minute per question, on generally shorter sections. Score cumulative percentages in comparison with SAT. 45%, 1,480,469 students of the 2009 high school graduating class took the ACT. The average composite score was a 21.1 in 2009. Of 2009 test takers, 668,165 were males, 808,097 were females, and 4,207 did not report a gender. Nationwide, 638 students who reported that they would graduate in 2009 received the highest ACT composite score of 36. The following is based on an official SAT concordance chart. ACT percentiles are calculated on the basis of the percent of test takers scoring the same score or a lower one, not only the percent scoring lower. Used by high IQ societies. American Mensa is a high IQ society that allows use of the ACT for membership admission if the test was taken prior to September 1989. A composite score of 29 or above is required. The 999 Society also accepts the old ACT test for admission, with a qualifying score of 32. After September 1989, the qualifying score is 34. The Epimetheus Society accepts the ACT as well, accepting scores of 35 or higher, regardless of when the test was administered.